Hey everybody, welcome back to You Are Free TV. It is Tuesday, May 26th, a kind of intense day here, 2026, 5/26/26. So glad to be back with you here on You Are Free TV. I'll jump right in with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution, protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act and reporting. It is not intended to bully or harass anyone, never to incite violence, hatred, or lawlessness of any kind. It doesn't give legal, medical, or financial advice, and there are further disclaimers in the description below. All right, so glad to be back with you here again. Back now that I'm back on. And I want to say thank you so much to Diana for the donation. Thank you so much, Diana. Thank you to everyone hanging in there monthly, supporting the channel. So appreciate you. I'm back, and we're going to keep this going. So we have a lot of news today. And of course, we have the Paxton Cornyn primary heat going on. There's about a half hour left of that tonight of the voting in Texas, right? This is the huge thing to oust Cornyn. We'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about President Trump has called a cabinet meeting at Camp David today. And of course, Iran, the big thing. But I think a lot of this also is connected to what Russia is about to do. And that we're going to get into as well. So I'm just going to put on the glasses. We'll jump in and we'll talk about, I think I'll start with Paxton Cornyn, right? Because what did we have Attorney General Paxton say? Okay, this is where Cornyn has spent over $150 million trying to defeat Paxton here in Texas, who Paxton, of course, what he came out, threw down the gauntlet, said, hey, I'll get out of the race if you'll just pass the Save America Act. If Senate will move, if corrupt John Thune, the Turtles guy, who are all on vacation right now, right? All on vacation without getting anything done. They worked 11 days in May. If you'd like to complain about that, 202-224-3121 for your senator. And basically what we have here with Paxton, he said, I will drop out of this race if you will pass the Save America Act, the SAVE Act, the election integrity, making sure that happens here in the United States. And of course, what did Cornyn do? He just threw in 150 million corrupt dollars. Who knows where it's all gone? And that's our RNC for us, right? And then at the last hour, we get Trump endorsing Paxton, right? And Paxton has gone up against everyone from Big Pharma to the election steal stuff, all of it. And so we want him in, and we want Cornyn out as leader, right? So we have another half hour. It's a very, very tight race, according to, of course, all the baloney mainstream news. But on the street, there's nary a Cornyn voter can be found by anybody in the news who went out to the polling stations in Texas today. They're not finding Cornyn voters out there. So unless a bunch of Democrats are coming out to push Cornyn over the line here, and of course the machines, the corruption, all of it, it is our prayers hugely to get AG Paxton into the Senate to be a real fighter. At this time where we desperately need the Senate to end its corruption. And this is happening, of course, as well as the same time we have Alabama, the three-panel judge decision to not pass the redistricting map in Alabama. And the same thing in South Carolina, where you had the corrupt Senate again, refusing to pass what the state house in South Carolina had put as their new redistricting map, to show the true voting base, and to get rid of what the Supreme Court did recently, which was the Louisiana decision to end race-based gerrymandering in states and make it illegal. And so you have Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon, right? She's dealing with the civil rights aspect of the DOJ right now. That is her job. And she has come out and said, we're going to see what the states do, but the Federal Department of Justice may intervene if the state's legislatures do not follow the Supreme Court Louisiana ruling to end race-based gerrymandering. So we're not, with Alabama and South Carolina, we're not at the end of the road here. There could be a federal, and I think there will be, a federal action here, right? And this is very important to understand because we have all kinds of more stuff coming out, and I'll get into the Russia stuff, Iran stuff, the cabinet meeting at Camp David in a minute. But I wanted to just mention also coming out huge more in the conspiracy case, the grand conspiracy case happening with the grand juries in southern Florida, where you have Joe DeGenova working so hard to collect all of the evidence in this case. Jason Canones, the U.S. attorney down there. You've got, of course, the incredible Judge Eileen Cannon presiding. And what do we have today coming out? A major senior 30-year appellate court judge who was brought into Merrick Garland's DOJ sort of towards the end of the term there when Garland okayed and authorized the raid on Mar-a-Lago. She comes out and says, well, not she comes out and says, she had filed a report back then saying that she believed that going ahead with this raid was unconstitutional to do on a president of the United States, to raid their home. And so more evidence is smoking guns are coming out all over the place in the case happening in Florida. So this is very important to understand and very exciting, I would say, because don't think that nothing's happened. Don't go black-pilled, okay? You have to understand the larger world picture here of this economic refiguring, okay, to get out of the rules-based order, which just simply means a control by a globalist elite out of the City of London banks and the bankster elite, who all have immunity, whether it's the Bank of International Settlements, the UN, the International Monetary Fund, all of these banks created after World War II have immunity. It's like the 1946 Immunity Act, okay? And Mel K talks about this very well on her show on Rumble. Definitely check her out, where she is talking about and letting us know, once again, we need to repeal this Immunity Act from 1946, giving these banks immunity from prosecution, auditing, kind of like the Fed, but on the international globalist control grid level. And so this economic restructuring that Bessent is in charge of, but of course, everybody in the mix here is going after the banking, okay, of what is running the Black Book projects that are destroying America, but also the West. And Iran, while it's, important, okay, as far as the control of the Straits of Hormuz and all of the choke points, all of the navigational canals, are what Trump has been going after, of course, to try to save the economy and prevent the Ponzi scheme that has been the attack on the U.S. economy for the last 60 years from demolishing the country and collapsing. And so being able to control these areas and to have energy dominance again is what's going to allow, through the creation of mass production of gas and oil in this country, is what's going to allow the country, the U.S., using tariffs on one side and then exportation of energy. And that's why we're all so pissed, like, bring my gas prices down. But we do have to have this exportation of energy become dominant, as well as control of the canals. Think Panama, think Hormuz, but also the Straits of Malacca, and why Xi is so upset about Japan remilitarizing and their massive Navy fleet that they have. That is just, it dominates what China is capable of. And so this is all about economy, all about trade, and all about getting the bankster mechanisms removed and getting America, who has been the military superpower, but used for the City of London, getting that to be actually for America again. And like it or not, for the economy to survive, for America to survive, but also thrive into 250 and have American Revolution 2.0, but also 250.0, is this complete restructuring. This is a war on a global level that has been waged against us, that Trump, through an economic massive plan, using tariffs again, right, to also push the energy agenda, okay, for countries to buy American. This is all part of it. And so now we're having the questions about what's going on here with Russia. So Russia has come out, and I personally believe this is gauged at a timely fashion. I believe these things are step by step happening, that this isn't something that is just, oh, today Putin decided, even though, of course, instigated by what happened over the weekend, where you had Ukraine drone striking a massive, a huge hit for Russia that they're taking very personally, which is the situation of the excuse me here real quick. The dormitory there in Luhansk, right? This attack that killed 6 teenagers between the age of 14 and 18. This dormitory in Luhansk, where you had basically teachers in training, probably important people in training here, in the Russian viewpoint on what they would do in the future, that they were killed, 6 dead in this huge drone strike that happened, massive, massive drone strike over the weekend by Ukraine. And so what Putin has come out and what Lavrov has come out and said, Lavrov came out and said that they are basically going to, to hit them hard. To that this is not something that can be overlooked. That we're going to be basically going after. Let me just look at what Lavrov. I'm trying to find his exact words. Yeah. Lavrov comes out and says the war is about to end because we're actually now making it a war instead of an incursion, right? A response to everything, okay, for the last 20 years, but especially after the Maidan coup and the intentional killing of Russians in Ukraine, all of it that was done by Zelensky et al. As the puppet under the bankster elite, as the money laundering was just off the charts and still is. But we have Lavrov coming out. The war's about to end because we're about to actually do war here. And what he's saying is that, Putin and Russia comes out and says all U.S. citizens, officials, etc., should leave Kiev now. They need to leave because we're about to hit things that are going to make the country dark. That they are going to basically move forward with ending the war by striking Kiev. And what we also have so they already responded by hitting Kiev with a barrage of hypersonic missiles, kind of akin to what they had done a year or so ago, where they took down all kinds of installations. Only 4 civilians killed. I mean, that's horrible, any civilians killed. But considering what it could have been, very, very precision. These hypersonic missiles, they go up, they float up, and then they down, And so they're hitting specific targeting this to do with the infrastructure. And now they're saying, hey, we're going for it. We're going to hit the bridges. We're going to hit the infrastructure, stop the highway, stop the traffic, that they will not be able to operate in Ukraine, in Kiev anymore. And we're going to specifically, they said, that they're going to hit the Ministry of Defense, they're going to hit the drone manufacturing sites, and they're going to hit the intelligence headquarters. But they're also calling out, and Putin saying that they are intending to also hit, that it is because the drones are being now manufactured hugely in Poland and Romania. And this brings NATO into it because these countries get to be in NATO, right? And of course, Poland and Romania, both countries being the results of recent major deep state election fraud coups, right? Or just, the who was supposed to be elected wasn't elected. You had not Ceausescu, but it's not quite Ceausescu, but anyway, the man who was supposed to be elected in Romania, he was arrested, not allowed to run. Then the one underneath him ran, and he didn't win through a total stolen election in Romania. In Poland, you get Donald Tusk, who used to be EU commissioner, total corruption, total fraud under him, total EU puppet, as the prime minister in Poland. And so there's all this manufacturing of drones and also the capabilities there. Meanwhile, the USA still, with Elon Musk, who's now funding, the Labour Party to try to defeat Nigel Farage, funding the old school EU World Economic Forum crowd for the sustainability electric car business. Anyway, we'll get to that. But his Starlink, of course, is what's responsible for the USA still continuing, well, obviously Donald Trump and our CIA needs to shut this down. Okay, shut down the support of Ukraine. But then we get this whole situation. So will something happen in the next few days where maybe Starlink goes down? Maybe the intelligence with the U.S. is cut off briefly. That the U.S. intelligence cuts its feeds to Ukraine. We'll see if this might happen, because what we're hearing is that Russia could be hitting these drone manufacturing and other weapons manufacturing sites that are feeding the Ukraine war machine in Poland and Romania. So that's a huge thing, and of course it brings in the possibility of what could happen here, because we have um, NATO involved here. Okay, so will this be a call for this? We had Ursula von der Leyen coming up yesterday and speaking about the importance of militarizing, et cetera, Europe, getting, going full bore for the United Europe against Russia thing. We have President Putin calling out King Charles about, saying that Europe must, UK, Europe must dismantle Russia. He's not having it, of course. None of Russia is having it, and so he's basically saying these are legitimate targets of what is coming and killing our citizens, and we're planning to hit these targets in Romania and Poland. So long-winded, but that is what we can expect, and I believe that is, I'm sure, part of what Trump is doing after getting his 6-month physical again today, getting a clean bill of health at Walter Reed, and now having this cabinet meeting, right, as we're seeing, of course, the ongoing Iran deal being hammered out. But very important to note that this is a very important time period we're in. And today, I mentioned it in the beginning, but it is this astrological day. I believe it's kind of God's star math that just kind of points out where, different things are leveraged, what to look out for of what's coming down in the days. And today is a particularly tricky day. It's like full of angst, and it's full of anger, and it's full of, what we should be doing is exercising enormous restraint in what we say and what we do. And a great astrologer that made a good point about this said, whose central nervous system are you operating on? Is it yours, or is it the algorithms, right? So don't let yourself get all worked up out of shape by these devices, by the algorithm of the digital matrix that is constantly entraining us to be super anxiety, super hyped up, super black pilled, all of it. Stay with God, stay with prayer. Prayer is paramount, right? Shields up. In the prayer war room, right, that you have in your own home, where you just pray for peace through strength that is exercised with utmost intelligence, right? That's where we need to, thread that needle. And I believe that Trump obviously is trying to do, moving through all of this incredibly complex world stage, to try to save the U.S. economy in the ways that are available to us right now. We can wish it was all, magic beans and, rainbows, but it's not. It is the deal that we have. It is the hand, of cards that we have. And we have to deal with what is possible to save this country at this moment, to move forward into making new possibilities. And so that's what's going on that front. And then, of course, we also have the threat here with Israel being a constant expansionary wildcard force here when it comes to Lebanon, and saying they're going to just keep attacking Lebanon. And there's this threat against Jordan's control over the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Okay, supposedly backed by the USA, but massively Israel-led attempt here to strip Jordan of its, it has been, this happened way back through the Council on Foreign Relations and Chatham House back in the 1920s. And all of this when there was control of the Al-Aqsa Mosque given to primarily Jordan. Okay, and then I believe also Lebanon, and but Jordan is the one that basically calls the shots with their custodianship. Israel is challenging it. The Al-Aqsa Mosque is the mosque that stands in the Temple of the Mount, right? Already offensive in my view, but there it stands. I don't know if you remember, if you've watched this channel for a long time, but way back, gosh, 3 years ago or so, when I was interviewing Peter Gabriel, he was talking about that his close friend, a Jewish man, high up in the rankings of these intelligence communities, is saying that they already have built this third temple. Okay, this third temple. It's already built, and they're saying it's built underneath the mosque. Okay, I don't know I don't know, but that's what he was saying. That's what this person told him. And over the last few years, you've had all of these shutdowns and check-ins around the mosque, where a lot of people are saying, they're putting in explosive material there for a planned false flag on the mosque. And of course, with this Israel intent to attack Lebanon, conquer Lebanon, move into Lebanon, take up Lebanon, as we deal with all the Eastern Christians just being slaughtered en masse. We just talk about Islam and Judaism all day long, and Zionism. Meanwhile, the Christians are just being decimated. Okay, decimated, the oldest Christians on the planet. And this comes with Lebanon hugely. And of course, Beirut back in the day, just being a gorgeous, it's called like the Paris of the Middle East. It just was a beautiful place to be, modern, fantastic, people living in harmony. Now it's a total disgusting war zone. And so with Hezbollah, of course, always being Lebanon, they're, it's just full of these Hezbollah. Now, it is all created to be that way, everything built that way for the eventual takeover of Lebanon for the Greater Israel Project. And so an Al-Aqsa Mosque, false flag would, if it was to be destroyed, of course, would allow there to be full invasion, just full war on Lebanon, if they pin it on Hezbollah. So that is another thing that's really kind of high on the radar here, with all of this super built up as Trump is trying to tame this down, right? Tame this down. Already saying, hey, let's get this Abrahamic Accords thing central. All right, let's focus on peace across the situation, where we can have everybody agree that nobody's going to be attacking Israel, attacking each other, that we're going to get this peace situation put in place before something really, really bad happens. And it's a constant threading of the needle that Trump is having to do here, and at the same time dismantle the global system using Besant and his team to sanction all the banks, go after the money, stop the laundering and fraud, stop the destruction on America and the proliferation of terrorism worldwide, and the drug cartels that fund it all. And so this is, just a massive, massive task. Okay, and we're going to keep following it. So that is also happening. And then today in New York, that's happening as I'm speaking of potential bad things on a day where we're already amped up astrologically for bad things to happen. There is a big protest going on at Gracie Mansion in New York City, where you're having what is their names? You're having this group that is a huge, I think it's called End Jew Hatred, but it is a huge coalition that wants Mamdani to resign. And it is a coalition of anti-Islamist Muslims, people like Anila Ali. She's a huge anti-Islamist, Muslim. And then you have a bunch of people involved in this, Rabbi Daniel Schonbuch out of New York, and a whole coalition of other groups, where they're basically calling on Mamdani to resign, that the intense Islamification already underway in New York City, the ousting of anybody with money, the people fleeing the state, to protect their finances and the threats on the stealing of land, the taxes, all of it, the making government control of food and resources, etc., the taking of land and money from not wealthy people. In New York City, you're not wealthy if you make $500,000. I mean, it's crazy to say, but it's true. In America, we can't understand that. Most of us who that would we would feel really wealthy making $500,000 a year. In New York City, that's like a you're just living okay. You're living okay. And so basically, there's a protest rally there happening at Gracie Mansion tonight, and pray that not some crazy, big FEFE doesn't happen there to pop off something that could be really bad. And so, yeah, to end the red-green alliance, but I would say blue alliance of the radical left Jewish population, too. 1/3 of the Jews in New York voted for Mamdani. So this is a speak out against that. So interesting. We'll see how it goes. And as I mentioned earlier about Elon Musk backing the opponent to Nigel Farage in Britain, as we're seeing the huge protests. We're seeing the former Prime Minister of Scotland, or the Chief Director of Scotland, excuse me, that her husband arrested on multiple counts of embezzling tons of taxpayer money or campaign money to fund his luxurious lifestyle. Things are moving ahead, and people are protesting en masse in Ireland, across the UK. And Nigel Farage, of course, won with the Reform Party hugely recently. And so now we're hearing that this movement, which is just a bogus, Colour Revolution funded London bankster movement called Restore Britain, is being backed by Elon Musk with huge amounts of money. And this is to basically get a person named, I think it's Charlie Downs, who is the mayor of Manchester, where tons of corruption and Islamification is happening. That mayor, they need to get him to be an MP, so then he can then be immediately brought in to replace Keir Starmer, who of course already is dying on last little legs, okay, to keep his cabinet together, to keep his government in power. And if they can get Charlie Downs in versus Nigel Farage, we're looking at 5 more years of a destroyed and attacked Britain, with all of the tyranny, all of the mass arrests of all the protesters, all of the people who speak out at all against Islamists, or the people, the Islamists who behead people, rape women, who get off with nothing, while the Britons get massive sentences. So we need to stop this. Restore Britain needs to be opposed, and Elon Musk needs to be outed for the fact that he is doing this only for his own bank account, his own bottom dollar, as he's set to become the first trillionaire. They always say that the first trillionaire, as if the other trillionaires don't already exist. So that's important to note. And I think I will just mention this on my way out. This is going to be a bit of a shorty today. We've got, of course, I just wanted to mention Pope Leo's book length encyclical. And this is Prevost, right? The corrupt minion acolyte of Pope Francis, the Dark Pope. We have Pope Leo choosing his name, saying he's going to be like the last Leo at the time of the first industrial revolution. He's here for this, second industrial revolution, and to speak out against AI specifically and write this encyclical. And it's very interesting because we have the kind of bootlicker, sadist, socio-psychopaths of the technology, silicon, God worshipper cult, right, in Silicon Valley, that just wants to see humanity fail and to take over the control of not only humanity, but our brains and bodies, and use us as batteries and control us like minions or bees in a hive for our own destruction. But Pope Leo in this encyclical does come out with a lot of great points, thankfully, basically saying that, human beings, what makes us human, part of it is our labor and what we do for work, that we need to have meaningful work, that we have to, be in charge of what happens, and have the ability to create our own lives through our work. Coming out again saying that AI, is being, touted as godlike powers. All of it, the invasion into our minds, the importance of the family, that AI and the control of what we think, what we know, what we learn, all of this being taken away from what is human learning, human to human. And so, and that AI is basically emulating Jesus-like powers, and that it can't be worshipped as a god. So that all sounds really good on the one hand. On the other hand, Leo is saying, oh, we have to also, accept AI. It's still great. It still can, give us such great, make life so much easier, with its, streamlining of knowledge and apparatus, and those good robots that can do all the work, that is laborious for humans, and take people out of the toils of some of the harder things to do. And some of that is true. Some of that is true. However, I still like my vegetables going through human hands. And of course, that's up to us, what we do, what our choices are. It is us that allowed the Amazonification of the world, of our industry, of our goods and services. It is us that make those choices over price. That instead of funding locally, and not me, not me, that we chose to allow everything to be destroyed for saving a few dollars. And it is vital to understand that all those gifts, like free shipping, all of that is quickly taken away. And we watch that being massively taken away at the moment. And it'll just be, parceled out until it's no longer. And that social credit score system is up and coming. And so I think I want to end here by just going over, as I talked in my last video, that we had this, and I will link the Pope Leo's encyclical and other links below. But as I was talking about the Lyme yesterday, and the alpha gal and all of this, I wanted to just talk about Lyme here for a second, and I'll get more into alpha gal coming up. I want to talk about homeopathy that has been successful with alpha gal syndrome. That's the syndrome where you get bit by the Rocky Mountain tick, and that you can't eat anything that comes out of a mammal again. And so we'll get into that. But I wanted to talk about the spirochetes from the Lyme, and that is Borrelia burgdorferi, right? And the Borrelia, it is really important, right? Because this is, so many people die from Lyme because you get the spirochete infestation that causes cancer and so many other diseases, the central nervous system, destruction, all of this, brain dysfunction, all of it. And I wanted to talk about a few things that are very important. And if you have Lyme, this is a really important book to have. I've had this for many, many years before I needed it. But this is Stephen Booner. You can get it, anywhere. This is the most recent edition. And but he also does videos online as well. But he does talk about the four herbs that really kill the spirochetes. And there is one, and I'll get to it in the future. Again, one antibiotic that is very, very selective that kills the spirochetes. It's extremely hard to get it through your doctor. You have to get a special person who will give you that one antibiotic that only kills the spirochetes, doesn't destroy your entire gut system, your entire biome. But that's for a future video. But the spirochetes carry that bacteria, the Borrelia bacteria, and then it colonizes, and it becomes these so-called cancers and other things. But one way it does that is forming cysts, what they call persistiforms persistiforms, and these are cysts, right? And especially goes into the lymph, into the lymphocyte tissue. And so this is where it gets into the armpits, the breast, everywhere where you have lymph nodes, and you want to really treat, really take care of the lymph. And I really love this product called Detoxin. This is their Cleaver 7-in-1. It's cleavers. They grow all over. And cleavers are huge for detoxing lymph. And of course, activity, infrared sauna, but Epsom salt baths, castor oil packs, the dry brushing, all of it, the bouncing up and down, the rappelling on one of those little mini trampolines, all this that gets lymph moving, very important. But then you want to hit the heavy lifting and really try to clean out the lymph. I like this by this company called Detoxin. I will link it below. And then there's also these for herbs, and I don't have it in front of me, but there's this great product, I'll link it below, called Tick Immune, which I've talked about before. Tick Immune by Zen Men, which I will link below. Tick Immune has these things in it that I'm about to mention. These are, in studies, were found they actually kill the spirochetes, that is the Borrelia Lyme carrier. Cryptolepis, Japanese knotweed. Cryptolepis was the #1 killer of the spirochetes. Japanese knotweed was second in its effectiveness. Cat's claw and Chinese skullcap, okay, were the 4 major killers of, on an herbal method, of the spirochetes. And so I really wanted to mention that. And yeah, that's where I'm going to leave it. But I also, again, I talked about this yesterday, where we have this Bacillus subtilis. There's an element here where the reason this new Lyme and alpha-gal thing is going so heavy, and we need RFK Jr. to come out with just a giant, $1 billion fund project to go and eliminate these ticks that are being weaponized and biowarfared on us. It is a massive, massive assault on our country. And yeah, so there's that. So we need to organize for that. That's huge. But Bacillus subtilis, this kills, well, it eats glyphosate and flushes it out of the body. So this with maybe Masterpiece, Nano Zeolite, Sea Minerals, these kind of things where you're going to go against the glyphosate as well, because all of this has an element of the interbody nano network, where the more in touch you are with the 5G, the Bluetooth, smart home systems, all of that, the more all of this stuff get amplified and activated and proliferating in the body. And so all of those things go together. It was designed to be that way. And that's why they filled us up with all the biosensors, whether you got the shots or you're just in the environment, breathing the air with all of them, all the smart dust, with everything coming and raining down upon us in the chemtrails, that this geoengineering is not just about only dimming the sun and taking away our vitamin D and our natural melanin production, whereas glyphosate kills melanin, destroys melanin. That is our body's biofield. But that it also then it sheds, it's just the spray that is, getting into us all of these nano level sized sensors. And so, any who's who what's, I'm going to leave it there with that information. We're going to keep on doing this, and I will see you again. I also want to say, before I go, the MCT oil of c60evo.com /YAFTV, of course, my sponsor, C60 Evo. I've been using the MCT oil specifically. Can't do the caps anymore because of the gelatin caps. But I'm still really recommend them for anybody else because they're so handy. I love them. But the MCT oil only has half the amount of the olive oil because it's the organic coconut oil, but what it can hold of what is, the nano-sized ESS60, the purest carbon 60 you can find out there. And but this combined with the MCT oil, the coconut oil, its antibacterial, antifungal, everything properties, it has worked incredibly for me. So I'm really pushing this now with the MCT oil on my show here. And so check it out, c60evo.com/YAFTV. You can use the code YAFTV for 10% off. Anybody who's ever donated or does to the channel gets 15% off, different code and link sent to you. And we're going to be doing a show about that soon as well. But I really want you to consider this as part of your protocol, because it's been really helping me in my journey here of the last few months. So we're going to leave it there at 40 minutes. There's so much happening that is so positive, and it is high dough. It is, intensity that's going on right now. And don't stay tied to any tiny tidbit of news, because things are moving in a fashion that is on the macro level, and that we're going to keep seeing, step-by-step increments of how the U.S. is moving forward under the Trump team's planned, takedown of this order in the world that has been trying to annihilate the United States, but also the entire Western world, to get rid of that pesky Christian West, okay, that just happens to be the place where liberty was introduced to the world and has been the freest country of America, but also the freest countries in the world. And so we're going to keep following it. We're going to keep on. We're going to keep doing locally. All the innovations locally are so important right now to support this survival of the United States. It's part of our being part of AMREV 2.0, that whether it is starting local community gardens, whether it is organizing carpools to save gas, whether it is having coffee get-togethers with people in your community to talk about what's going on, and also theprecinctproject.usa, get in on the midterms. It is coming up quick. So they need thousands of committeemen, huge amounts of volunteers for everything under the sun, for the midterms, for the candidates, as we try to oust these feckless, treasonous, awful Congress and Senate that we have currently. So anyway, I'll leave it there. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you tomorrow. You are free. Keep up the faith.